sort of this amazing thing that has happened in this election cycle, Doug, where the bloggers are really driving the news. I mean, we're reporting a lot of news, but I mean, the bloggers are the ones out there breaking stuff that a lot of times we're following. Sometimes they're right and sometimes they're not.
The bloggers speak for the activated constituencies on the left and right. They're motivated. And in a turnout election like this election is likely to be, the blogosphere is actually extremely influential. So if the netroots are able to mobilize the Democratic constituency, that is a hugely important benefit for the Democrats. And if Democrats don't come out of this convention mobilized and activated, it's a real disappointment.
There are only 2,000 people there.
There is a Democratic base.
I mean, the right-wingers went out as a lark, and by the way, they're staying at a better casino. But when right-wingers had, our CPAC event in Washington this year, there were 10,000 people. 7,000 of them were under the age of 30. They get 2,000 people for this. And by the way, why are we waiting all night on the words of Al Franken?
Because we think it might be interesting. Kirsten?
Well, I think there are a lot more active conservatives than there are active liberals. That's just sort of the demographics of the country. I think that's always borne out in every survey or poll we see.
But it's also emblematic of what's going on this cycle, don't you think?
Well, they're not as activated, but I think that they
motivated.
Yeah, they're not as motivated. There's an enthusiasm gap, definitely. But I think there's way too much ragging on the bloggers, frankly. And I've probably done some of it in my time as well. But they've gotten. I feel like they've really moved into a space where there's a lot of great reporters. They find out a lot of information that mainstream reporters aren't covering. I often learn more by going on and reading a lot of the stuff that they do than I frankly learn in the New York Times or other places, because it's just much more thorough.
That's an easy standard.
And I think, or pick any paper, frankly. I mean, I'm serious.
Noelle,
there's some really good people out there.
It is a generation of bloggers. It's a social media network, and everybody's, either doing Twitter, they're doing Facebook, they're blogging, they have their own blog set up. So it is kind of important. Back to the speech with Al Franken, I'm just kind of surprised that they would pick Al Franken to end this note on. I mean, he's not one of their best speakers. And, with his background on SNL. Yeah. Thanks.
Brian, there is an answer to Ann's point, which is
why
do the 2,000 bloggers matter? Because 2 years ago, we elected a president because of bloggers, liberal activists, and a fundraising network and political network that was activated by Barack Obama in an unprecedented way. Yeah, it is true, Ann.
What is the evidence?
She'll tell you. The element is the vote and the money that was raised.
The only reason the liberal bloggers exist is because of George Soros money. So,
George Soros, who bets against the American dollar.
You're giving liberal bloggers credit for breaking all these news stories. I can think of a lot of news stories that broke on right-wing blogs. Okay, I'm willing to be educated. What broke on a left-wing blog?
The candidacy of Barack Obama was created.
It was created in George Soros' apartment.
In fairness, Andy, I have to jump in. The social media thing really was a huge part of what got excitement about the Obama.
Young people liked Obama. That isn't breaking news on liberal blogs. I'm willing for you to tell me what big story the Daily Cause broke.
Young people had never been so active as they were with Barack Obama's race. Young people came out in droves, just as they did when Jack Abramoff got them all riled up for Reagan's deal. They really did get to use
Soros. So congratulations.
First of all, liberal bloggers are not all paid by George Soros. That's just not true.
Most of the big ones are.
No, I don't think who.
Center for American Progress.
Center for American Progress is a think tank. That's not
Daily Cause was for a while. MoveOn.org was.
It's not true.
Those are the only ones I can even name.
They are funded. There are lots of liberal bloggers, but I actually wasn't just talking about liberal bloggers. I read conservative bloggers as well, and I think that there's a lot of good work out there, separate from whether they're breaking news. That's a separate issue, and I think they are breaking some news. They're just doing a lot of good analysis and a lot of good research, and they do drive
only on Keith Olbermann's show.
Oh, that's not true. They focus on a lot of things.
Okay, but I can name stories, and I think you can all name stories.
My point, Ann, is that both the conservative bloggers and the Democratic bloggers are often driving the political debate.
I know people are comfortable saying both sides, but once again, I'm saying I don't think it's true. I will name stories. Hang on. I will name stories that were broken by right-wing blogs. I'm still waiting for you to name one broken by... The big story about Daily Cause was it turned out they were using a bad pollster and all the polls were fake.
All right.
Name
It
a
doesn't
story
matter.
broken on the left-wing blog.
It's not about breaking stories.
Yeah.
It's about driving the conversation. And he's absolutely right. If you work, I'm sorry, if you work in TV news and you want to know where a lot of stuff bubbles up, it bubbles up from people who are activists who are following it very closely and are keeping people informed about it. And I think that that's an important thing.
John Edwards, Al Gore, the fact that John Lewis was not called the N-word, all of that came out on right-wing
the world
blogs.
in terms of the healthy interplay of ideas from the left and the right and producing a better synthesis as a result. It's not bad left, good right, or vice versa. It's
But whether
healthy
we
dialogue and debate producing a better country.
You are so not reading
Whether we
left-wing
like it or
blogs
not,
if you
bloggers
think that.
are here
And
to
I'm
stay.
trying to read America as the country where diversity is celebrated, and there's not right
Which
and
ones
wrong.
do you read?
What,
If you
I
think
try to
they're
read
intellectual or that they're moving a debate forward, you're not reading Daily Cause.
I do read it. I don't like it, and I celebrate the fact that it exists.
But don't you
Noelle?
guys,
You celebrate
don't you
the
guys
KKK?
agree?
No, I don't, and I wouldn't, and I think that's abhorrent.
And they're not like the KKK.
Right.
But you guys, don't you
They don't
agree
kill
that
them.
whether
It's-
we
it's an
like it
unfair
or not,
comparison,
that
you know that.
bloggers are here to stay? Bloggers are here to stay, whether we like it or not.
I will say, from a journalistic standpoint, there's a lot of heartburn right now about what's going on in the blogosphere, because we saw one this week where it was completely wrong.
Yeah.
And some poor woman lost her job
Right.
as a result of some information that turned out to be completely wrong on one of the
Yeah,
blogs.
okay, the mainstream media does that all the time, and the people who have been maligned don't immediately get made saints. I've heard enough about that woman.
Well, you know what? You're absolutely right, Brian. Because of what goes on in the news cycle, we rush to judgment. A mistake was made. The president and Secretary Vilsack apologized, all to the good. Hopefully we'll avoid it. But the greater good is served by the healthy interplay of ideas and debate.
All right, let me just remind people of what we're doing. We are watching the Netroots convention in Las Vegas. This is the last speaker, we are told, before Al Franken comes out. We are expecting to hear what is on Al Franken's mind. We've told it should be a very interesting speech. More or less, it sort of is the last speech of this very interesting conference that's going on. It will set the stage and drive the debate, perhaps, of what the bloggers are thinking as they go back to continue the job of blogging. Interesting to me, though, is how the politicians, Kirsten, have really come to these events and have made them very important.
Well, I think it's exactly because of all the reasons that Doug is saying, and I think that these are people that are a constituency, and even if there's only 2,000 people there, which I think is a lot of people, I don't know, I mean, it's not 10,000, but it's a decent amount. There's a lot of other people who are following it. I mean, it's people, and they have a lot of influence over those people. There's people who read them. It is how Barack Obama really tapped into this fundraising network, and so I think it is an important thing for them
But I mean, it wasn't long ago that there were jokes made about people sitting at home in their pajamas driving the political
Made
debate.
about right-wing bloggers, I might add. And point two, the only people covering this idiotic convention is Fox News.
That's because.
For reasons I can't
And why is that, Ann?
understand.
Why is that?
Because you're fair and balanced.
Fair and balanced. Thank you very much, Ann
Brian,
Coulter.
I've been in a lot of